If you've got a question, the voices of resin are here. Oh, PlastChicks.
PlastChicks is an SPE sponsored podcast.
Hey,
Hello.
it's good to see you.
It is really good to see you and back in your little house. You're not on the road.
I'm not
like
in
10
Sheboygan.
minutes.
I'm not in Addison. I am in Chicago.
And you're even at your house. I feel like
At my
that's even
own
rare.
home. My own
That's
home, yeah.
wow. Does your
Yeah.
house still know you? Or has
I haven't even seen the living room yet. I just walked in the door from Sheboygan.
that's fair.
I'm sure it knows me.
It's fine. It's fine.
But it's good. I'm Mercedes Landazuri,
And I'm Lynzie Nebel.
and with our powers combined. Oh no, that was wait, is that right?
Yeah, that's it. It's only been like 2 weeks since we've done this.
All right, you do it. You do that part.
And with our powers combined, we are
PlastChicks, the voices of resin.
That's us. We get better with age, I think.
Just stellar. So, yeah. Hey.
Yeah, we're here. We're doing a new episode of the podcast. Sometimes they start off a little rough in the evening because I think it's the choosing the nighttime. At the nighttime, we're a little tired. I had a heavy dinner. You know, it's fine. Maybe we'll do a morning podcast next time. See how we
We
do.
both wake up very early because
We
we're both in manufacturing.
We are early people. So this is actually, dare I say it, I think this is the first episode of season 4.
Really?
I believe so. We are like
What?
seasoned veterans now.
Yeah, 4 seasoned. Well, 3. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we started this podcast a couple years ago.
3.
3. Wow. Yeah. So we just want to talk with people in the industry, in the plastics industry, and learn from them and share their stories and really expose the world, the podcast listening world and YouTube watching world to our world, right? That a lot of people don't know about.
And just a great excuse to, see someone cool who's doing cool stuff and just be like, hey, I'd like to talk to you for a podcast. That's my whole reason for doing this. It's all selfish.
Absolutely. And to get to talk to each other.
That too. Also selfish. You can find us we're on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, all the cool places. And then a week after the first Friday of every month, we also come out with the video version on YouTube. Video, that's probably an old word. Showing my geriatric millennial-ness. I don't know.
So today we are going to be speaking with Toi Clarke Jones. That's TOI. And she is the Vice President of Sales and Business Development at iMFLUX. So welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Mercedes. Thank you, Lynzie.
We're so excited to talk to you. Actually, you and iMFLUX are the reason that Lynzie and I first broke quarantine to see each other.
It is true that right after having a baby too. Like I was like a month out and I was like, let's do this.
We greatly appreciate it too. You guys were outstanding in helping us with our Fearless Innovation series, and you're on our website for posterity. So,
look at us. It was so neat to get to come for the Fearless Innovation series, which maybe we can touch on as well. But there's so many things we want to talk with you about. But so that event that you guys hosted, kind of a series of events that you hosted in place of NPE. You guys reached out to us to see if we wanted to be involved and do a segment, and we were completely flattered. I think it was the first time we had the experience of like feeling like we were suddenly being recognized, like
more than like just that girl who happened to be in that one call that one time.
Because we've had that, we get that a lot, but it was neat to be interacting with each other and see you and Amy watching us interact, and almost like you already kind of knew us. It was neat to kind of
you have that effect on people, but it felt like we knew you, and now we do. So what we really were looking for, and what you guys really brought, was this energy of sometimes in the plastics industry, things can feel a little stale. And we didn't want our Fearless Innovation series to have that vibe. So you guys brought this energy that really helped, because we had so many segments. And so we wanted a Q&A that was not like a normal Q&A. And so you guys really, you brought it. So thank you.
Well, and I really liked that you guys kind of did it in that, like, I mean, you guys self-called it the sportscaster style, and it did make it a lot more fun. Like, surface level, it's kind of the same thing. You're sitting there, you're asking questions, but just presenting it as like sportscaster style. I know I had a lot more fun. Like, you kind of felt like you're hamming it up a little bit extra, because it was a lot of fun to do that, especially in that like style, and like throwing it over to other people. And
yeah,
I really enjoyed it. But we should probably backtrack and first ask you.
Well, I was going to say, like, it was cool for us to be, have that experience, but then it was great because we really started to learn about iMFLUX more than, because we have, a mutual friend who works there, but we really still didn't understand too much. So it was like mind blowing to come and see, what you guys do, and just to meet you and your team. And so when we were thinking about planning for the next series of interviews, it was like, oh, we got to talk to Toi.
Yeah.
So
I appreciate it. I'm terrified, but I appreciate it.
Fearless innovation. Fearless.
Yeah, get over it.
It can be fearful innovation.
Yeah, it's fine.
No, fearless. You got to get over your fear.
So I guess for like step one, for people who are listening to this and they're going, okay, she sounds amazing, but what's iMFLUX? Can you give the 1-2 minute synopsis? You can take 10 minutes if you really wanted, but
I won't take 10 minutes. But
okay.
iMFLUX, first of all, I have to say we are headquartered outside of Cincinnati, Ohio. Hence my Cincinnati Bengals towel.
Gotta do it.
Because we're going to the Super Bowl, if you haven't heard. But so iMFLUX is a company that really, it's kind of unique because we have this game-changing software that's all about changing the way plastic is molded. So instead of the traditional way where plastic is really controlled by the velocity of the injection molding machine, our software kind of takes over and molds plastic based on what's happening with the melt and the mold. So we manage the pressure, or we control the pressure of the machine, and we actually change the way the plastic is molded. But we're unique because not only do we have a software, but we also have a mold building and innovation center. And we build molds primarily for Procter & Gamble, which is our parent company, but for some others as well. And the learning that we have around part design and mold flow just helps reinforce what's needed with the base software. But then it also informs what we do with software innovation. So adding new features, which are more autonomous. So it's more about machine learning and trying to make the software do more things that help people run their operations much more smoothly with better quality. And one of the big features that we have is more sustainably. So the ability to run different types of resins, but not have to fight the machine to do it. So that's kind of who we are in a nutshell.
I mean, honestly, to not have to fight a machine just sounds like some fever dream, because I feel like anytime I've ever molded, at some point I am fighting the machine.
Right. Or the machine is fighting the resin. Whereas like,
or fighting me.
Artistic brain, I'm like, oh, this method is more like the resin is telling the machine what to do. Right.
Well, yeah, we put the mold and the resin more in control than the machine is in control. And so you have more levers to work with, you can do more things.
And, you think about the injection molding industry in general, and like like ideal world, you have all these like top-notch machines, and like you could just set one process and like you live your best life. And that is so far from the truth. One shop can have machines that are, 30 years old and, 5 days old. And so to take a little bit of that variable out of it is just, God, it's got so many problems. Like, I obviously never had the chance, to do anything like that in like any of the shops I've been in. And now I'm not exactly in injection molding, but yeah, I could see a lot less crying. I think that's just in general how I would feel.
We don't
Less
want
tears.
people crying. We don't want tears. But the machine industry, they've done a lot of innovation over the years. Some are known for innovation more than others. But at the end of the day, the conventional process of injection molding hasn't changed substantially in decades. And so iMFLUX, it's exciting to be, in an industry that hasn't had much change and work on a technology that is trying to instill that change. Believe me, it's frustrating as well, but it's more exciting than it is frustrating. So,
well, and you're saying like the injection molding industry hasn't had that much change, and like you're billion% spot on. And then you think about it, and like pretty much the majority, and this is where I'm going to show my injection molding favoritism, the majority of plastic, components are injection molded. And yes, yeah. Mercedes, I know other stuff does other things.
Everything has to be treated first for the most part.
But let's be honest, injection molding is the most important. I said it. But, and to think about that, that's such a huge market to be not ignoring, but like you said, you guys are doing a lot of innovation in an area that doesn't necessarily get that much. It's more of it's good. Let's leave it alone.
Yeah. So this initially iMFLUX was, it's still a subsidiary of Procter & Gamble, right? Or yeah, but it started as an actual business unit. Is that correct? Of Procter?
Not a business unit. It started really as a research and development project, if you will. It wasn't in a business unit. It was, we had in Procter & Gamble, there was an organization that really was doing kind of innovation research in plastics. And because Procter & Gamble actually is a huge, injection molder and blow molder, or I shouldn't say they're a blow molder or injection molder. They're a huge buyer of injection molding and blow molding. And then we do also do injection molding internally on toothbrushes and on razors. But it started as a project that was charged with how do we do injection molding in half the time and half the cost. And so that project kind of grew inside the company. This technology was incubated inside the company, and the decision was made to spin it off into a subsidiary. Many of the things that Procter & Gamble does innovate, a lot of times if the company wants to use it but not really make it into a business unit, they license it. And so that is a model that's very well worn. But in this case, the company decided we don't want to license it. We want to actually still control it a bit because we think that it has advantages for the global world. And we want to be a part of that. And so that's one of the big reasons why iMFLUX is still a wholly owned subsidiary, because Procter & Gamble, like many companies, has sustainability goals, stated sustainability goals. And ours is called Ambition 2030. That's how we brand the work that we're doing around sustainability. And one of the goals is to make sure that no Procter & Gamble packaging ends up in a place where it shouldn't. So in oceans and, discarded in ways that we don't want for the health of the global world. And iMFLUX kind of just expands that vision to say not only no P&G product, but no plastic product, like no injection molded product should find its way to an ocean, for example. So that is important to Procter & Gamble. And so they continue to fund the work of iMFLUX.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that's really cool and really, ambitious and in the best way possible. Do you have any examples of some of the stuff, you guys are doing to keep, whether that be Procter & Gamble parts out or, is it all just through like lightweighting in the parts or design control, or is it
you being able to switch back and forth between recycled and
yeah. So we have, there are lots of features to the base technology of iMFLUX, and the features, result in things like improving cycle time. So, you can have more throughput in the same amount of time. Energy reduction, so less energy per part. That's a sustainability play. But the big one for that's most recognized is we have a feature called auto viscosity adjust. And with that feature, we're able to, because we are, monitoring and managing what's happening inside the mold so closely, and we're closing the loop right at the nozzle, we're able to adjust to viscosity change automatically. And so what that means is that hard to run resins, recycled resins fall in that, but also some, highly engineered resins fall into that. And we're able to manage that in a way that the operator doesn't have to make so many adjustments. So that feature, helps companies use kind of a broader portfolio of resins than they qualified on. So new part, nobody wants to requalify. It's kind of the bane of my existence as a salesperson is that, our sales cycle takes a long time because once people understand the benefit, they're like, how do I do this without qualifying? and they can't. So then they put it in line for a new project. And so our sales cycles are very long.
So yeah, and you mentioned, we talked about like how the injection molding industry is, and people in general are a little bit reluctant to change anything, right? And we've talked about how how iMFLUX helps Procter & Gamble, reach their sustainability goals. But I must imagine that having that relationship with Procter & Gamble and the pedigree of being so closely tied to Procter & Gamble must help give you that credibility with new customers and existing customers, right?
It's a logical thought, but not really.
Really? Okay.
Not as much as I would like. I would say, we think of our customers in different ways. So we have, molders, which sometimes those molders are, a lot of times those molders are custom molders. So they're molding for some brand owner. And in the case where they're molding for a brand owner, like Procter & Gamble, most of the molding that's done is done externally to the company by third-party molders. And in that case, I would say there is probably a little bit of, okay, that's interesting. For people who mold for themselves, I would say it's probably even a bigger selling point because they're controlling everything. They're seeing, their profit and loss change directly with any change that they can make. So they probably have a better appreciation. But in general, what I've found, and it's been kind of surprising since I've been in this plastics industry, nobody cares. Like everybody is pretty internally focused on their own challenges, their own opportunities, and they could care less about our pedigree. They want to know, what can you do for me now? So I tell you, sometimes we have a slide that we had that talked about our founding and our history. And I can't tell you the number of meetings I've been in where people are like, yeah, get on with it. Move on.
That's great. That's really it. Like, what's in it for me, right? When you're a salesperson, that's the question that you have to envision your customers asking, right? And you didn't originally come from sales. You were in purchasing, finance.
Yeah. So I started my career in finance way back in 1990 in Procter & Gamble. And then after a couple of years, about 4 years, I moved to purchasing, really as a stopgap measure. I didn't think I'd be there very long, but it sounded interesting. I thought, I'll try this out, and then I'll probably end up leaving the company. But I really loved it. I spent close to over 15 years buying all kinds of things. I never bought plastic. I never bought resin. But I did buy commodities. So I understand how markets like this operate. And I got to buy, everything from tangible things like equipment to market-driven things like wood pulp to services like marketing services. So I had a real great breadth in my purchasing roles. And the biggest thing is that develops my commercial skills. And so when I joined iMFLUX, kind of on the sales and business development side, it wasn't because I had a ton of sales experience. It was because I had the commercial mind to bring to this. And really, our selling is not, it's not typical selling. It's really relationship based, and it's trying to help people solve problems. And that's kind of what I've done through most of my career. So.
Yeah, I think, if I did some purchasing at my last company, just based on size of company, and, I'm more apt to trust somebody who has seen, how I'm purchasing, what I'm purchasing, has kind of that, again, not that it's necessarily in plastic, but has seen what I'm up against before you come in and try and sell me something.
Yeah, exactly.
And
exactly.
that being said, though, also, well, I was really impressed digging through, when I was internet stalking you, finding somebody had written a recommendation or a review of working with you, and mentioned Toi is probably capable of turning any truly stuck business relationship around. When everyone has lost hope, Toi will find a way to get things moving again. Right.
Oh, wow.
And so that's, I mean, like, it's incredible to me to that you really just bring all of your knowledge from the purchasing side and purchasing in all these different avenues to sales, and then suddenly just dominating like that.
Yeah. Thank you.
Well, and especially in like an industry like the plastics industry, it can be a little stodgy, a little stuck, a little, this is what we do.
Be careful, that's the majority of our listeners still.
Listen, I already said injection molding is my favorite. I threw it out there. I've got the background. It's fine.
My first buying role was in the Capitol, was buying equipment. And very similar. I remember going to my first trade show, and it was at the McCormick Center in Chicago. And I went to the bathroom, and there were no women. There was no line. There was no line in the bathroom. And I said, this says it all, right?
Yep. Yeah.
I was not only, one of few women there, I was by far the youngest. I brought the average age down a lot. And it was great because I learned so much. And then I brought a different way of doing things. And people, have embraced that. I have found throughout most of my career, people have embraced more than they have defined the difference,
Mm-hmm.
And then when I moved into buying wood pulp, I spent 5 years in that industry, a global commodity industry that's very insular. And once again, nobody looked like me. In fact, one time when I led our pulp organization, our pulp buying organization, I had a team of all women. There were 4 women on my team.
Wow. I love it.
5 women, 3 of us in North America and 2 in Europe. And we would go to these trade shows. And people would be clamoring to have meetings with us. Now, one was because Procter & Gamble is a huge buyer in that area.
Oh, yeah.
But also, people would tell us all the time, your meetings are so different. They're just different. They're fun. We get a lot done. We get a lot accomplished, but they're also fun.
Mm-hmm.
And so I have found, I've been in industry several times where it's not been something that is expected, but I find that people are people, and if you focus in on what they are trying to achieve and you try to help them in that area, then all the defensives come down, So I don't mind. I tell these old guys sometimes that I'm with, and I mean old in the best way because I'm old. I'm a grandmother, so but I often say, I'm not scared of you.
I love it because I think we're still like getting out of our terrified of them phase.
Yeah.
And we were, well, first of all, we do love when we go to trade shows, and like, yes, I wish there were more women at the trade shows, but the non-bathroom
is our
line,
special time.
It is
our
nice.
Meeting place. It's like
it's our secret room. Nobody can come with us.
We have a lot of bathroom stories,
adventures.
Yeah, always just empty, completely empty.
Yeah. a lot of snacks consumed in the bathroom. I feel like we're just always eating snacks in there. It's fine.
A lot of catching up.
A lot of catching up.
With the other 5 women who are at the event.
But I love how you're saying, because obviously there's a big push in like diversity, and SP has started the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Advisory Board, and I'm a part of that, and it's a big part of the conversation with the executive board, and
a new conversation.
New conversation, yes, very new conversation, but also what we're finding is not a lot of the other manufacturing type industries are really having the conversation seriously just yet.
Yeah.
And, as you're saying, I love, it's not about pointing out the differences, but it's just about bringing a new perspective. And there is nothing wrong with that. And as, all these studies are starting to show, is it's actually usually way better for your business. And like, it's such a no-brainer. And I think I just love that, like, you're living proof of like, yep, we're not the same. And that makes it even better for what we're doing.
Absolutely. It's even as simple. This is going to sound really crazy, and you feel free to cut this out of the pocket. My husband and I, so we're both the same race. We both grew up in similar types of families. Hopefully we both have common values. That's why we're married. But we, when we go to buy something, a major purchase, like, we don't agree. We come at it very different. And when we find the thing that we can agree on, it is the best thing. Now, it's hard to get from where we start to where we end up. But when we do end up there, it's like, oh, I feel so good about this, and that I feel like that's the same way in business. Like,
absolutely,
we shouldn't expect to all come from the same point of view.
Right.
And so when we get to the final place where we can align on something that makes sense, it's probably a better thing,
And it feels amazing.
It feels amazing.
Yeah, that's probably the right approach, because my husband and I have been purchasing a lot of like different furniture for our house. And I think I've just told him probably like 15 times in the past week he has terrible taste and I will never buy anything he wants. So it's going really well.
And for
Not a
me,
winning strategy.
and for me, my winning strategy was just to get divorced, just to call it there. We have a wonderful relationship now. We really do. Not romantic. And not, we don't make any purchasing decisions together except.
Together. Yeah, right.
There you go. Win-win. We really spun this away.
But getting back to that DEI, point of the conversation, Toi, you had been involved in, so this was previously when you owned your own business. You were part of the National Minority Supplier Development Council?
Yeah. NMSDC. So NMSDC is an organization that really helps minority businesses get a seat at the table. So, as a corporate purchasing person, for years, one of the things that we did was focused on how do we shrink our supply base. And it was around how to manage that better. But one of the unintended consequences of that is you shut out new suppliers, new thinking almost, right? If you're going to consolidate, you're consolidating with people who are tried, true, proven, and big. And NMSDC is way older than when that effort of consolidation started, but it's the same thinking. And so one of the things that the organization does is helps, especially big companies, member companies, to find smaller businesses, minority-owned businesses that infuse, new ways of doing things and are competitive in different ways. And so, I enjoyed being a part of that organization as a minority business. I did it twice. So I was affiliated with it as a corporate buyer, and then I switched and became an independent consultant. So I was affiliated with it as a minority business. there's training involved. There's, there's conferences where they do kind of pitch competitions or matchmaking and all that kind of stuff. But it's exposure. They go through an extensive vetting process to make sure that your business is not just minority owned, but minority managed and operated.
Mhm.
And so that gives a lot of the member companies, confidence of what they're, who they're engaging with, because they, years ago before this, there were a lot of front companies that would, have minority ownership, but really the management and control was by somebody else.
Mhm.
So yeah, it's a great organization, and they do a lot to facilitate both for the member companies as well as for the smaller businesses that they're trying to help grow.
I feel like we should put that in our show notes if we remember, because we always say we're going to put stuff in our show notes, and then I don't think we ever do. But
Yeah, sure.
we do? Okay. Well, as long as somebody's doing it, I'm not doing it. But because I think a lot of the baby stepping in DEI right now in manufacturing is, just try and diversify your supply chain. And I think a lot of people are like, okay, and I've heard this from some people, is okay, great. Where do I don't know anyone that can diversify my supply chain. I only know the people who are like me that are up, know. And so to have access to, something like that actually says, we did the work for you. You just got to come in and see who works with you and you're good. I think that's a huge just first step even. Yeah.
No, it totally is. A lot of companies, I mean, every company is not like huge, like, Procter and Gamble.
Right.
A lot of companies' supply base is really local. It's geographically local.
Mm-hmm.
And so they only know who they know.
Exactly.
So you're absolutely right. That is a big thing that the NMSDC works to break down that artificial barrier.
Put it in the show notes, probably. And if not, just go back to this part of the podcast and go to that website.
So how big is your department? How many reports do you have? How many?
Oh, yeah. Well, I have my team is not huge, but it's big. So we have 4 salespeople who are part of my organization, as well as 3 application engineers. We have our first application engineer who's in China, who's outside of Shanghai, who's a part of our organization. And so we work, that's my direct reports. But with that, we have, a group of program managers that we work closely with to, make sure that we're satisfying our customer requirements. So yeah, it's really cool. We have, well, actually, no, I just hired, but we have 5. I have 5 salespeople, actually. We have 1 focused on molds, and then 4 focused on the software.
And I gotta ask you the age-old question, because I'm, my background's a lot of like program management, project engineering, that type of stuff. And I've had a lot of us versus them, engineering versus like commercial business development. And I feel like if I were working with you, I feel like I would never be that. I'd just be like, yes, absolutely, Toi, whatever you need. And like, how do you make that relationship work when it's a lot of times people come into it with those preconceived, like, it didn't work last time, this time's going to be the same. How do you overcome that with your team and with, the people you work that aren't doing the selling?
And actually, to piggyback on that, just because I read you, I was stalking you, Toi, online. There is proof of that Toi, like having that relationship with everyone. There's another like review that somebody wrote about her. It's like, doesn't matter if she's like, if you're, in a different department working with her, if you're buying from her, if you're directly reporting to her, if you're managing her, like she is the best.
See, I did my non-online stalking. So we're coming at you from all ends.
Online stalk myself, honestly. I don't even know where this is coming from. I'm feeling pretty good right now. So I'll give you an example. At iMFLUX, we have something every year called iWeek. iWeek is a week of investing in ourselves. So everybody in the company has the opportunity to both put on a class and take a class. So we encourage everybody, everybody knows something. So we have a whole, catalog of things that people can offer for people to take, and then people sign up and take the class. Well, this year for iWeek, instead of me putting on the class, we have a team of sales consultants that I've been using for our sales team. And we created a class called Sales for Non-Sales People. And it was kind of a stealth way to get at what you're talking about, Lynzie. Some of our technical partners, they are they're selling the technology way more than we are, quite frankly. We go in and open the door, but they're the ones who really demonstrate and create that bond with the customer that makes them want to buy. And so we needed to make them aware that, you have a lot of influence here, and we need to be talking. Our language sometimes can get in the way. Like, we need to be talking in a way that really brings the customer in and moves them through so that they want it, And so this Sales for Non-Sales People was all about, like, in a stealth way, creating the comfort with technical people to want to be a part of the sales process without like telling them, hey, you're in the sales process.
Are you offering that class for your favorite podcasters? I'm just throwing it out there. Listen, I will come during iWeek. I will sneak in. Nobody will know.
I really, really love this. I mean, I wrote this down in my notes and I highlighted it, and I want to try to, as my company grows, it's like, okay. And as my vision of everything gets bigger, it's like, okay, how do we solve a lot of these interdepartmental issues or communication, issues? And it's like, wow, this is so valuable, because not only are we offering knowledge to other departments and sharing knowledge, but it's also like, feel seen and we feel heard once we're presenting it and people are signing up for the class. And it just seems like it could create such great company, could help create such great company culture, which is totally evident in iMFLUX. When we came and visited you, it was amazing.
Now, iWeek is great. I wish I thought I had it here, but it doesn't look like it's close. Yeah, no. So I told you we have a mold shop, a mold building. So I don't know if you can really see this, but this is just a bar of different metals. I mean, it's a bar of steel. And the class that I took last year, where I got to make this, was a mold polishing class.
Oh,
so
I love that so much.
Right? The guys in our mold shop that do the finishing work put on this class, and I got to, you can't see the gradients here, but I got to polish with different types of sandpaper. I don't know. I got to polish to different finishes across. There's 5 different finishes here on this bar, but I keep this here on my desk because I love that class, because I walk past those guys all the time, and I know the value that they're delivering here. But actually doing the work with my hands, then I had a very different appreciation for the work that they're delivering for our customers.
I'm totally going to use this idea.
And see, like, that's exactly where, like, in, past jobs, there's been times where it's like, oh, we'll just change the surface finish. It's like, it's not that easy.
It's not easy at all.
And like having that, like, appreciation, I could feel like if someone came to me and they're like, I know this is gonna be a pain, but I need the surface finish change, I'd be like, all right, you admitted you know it, I will accept that. I'll go back.
We need this special effects color match done in 2 shots. Okay.
Just a color change. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that's so great, because now I'm at a much bigger company, and like, while it's a different commercial atmosphere for me, like I don't talk to our customers at all anymore, but I'm not really like in the like meaty technical part of it, which meaty is the actual professional description for technical.
Yeah.
But yeah, like you can even tell, like, sometimes when you're on a call, like launching a product or launching a project, that there is some animosity because there is such a disconnect, and like it's by no means the worst, interaction I've ever seen. And it's not everyone, and all those disclaimers, but like it isn't. I've seen, your interaction with people, and, obviously we've stalked enough to know that like there isn't that animosity. And I just think that's really commendable in an industry like this that, like I said, lends itself towards cranky, fussy, stodgy.
And ultimately, nobody wants to undervalue anybody else. I don't think anybody wants to undervalue anybody else, but it's hard to.
I make my share of mistakes in this area. I really do. I try, but I do make a lot of mistakes too. But I also I'm pretty self-deprecating. I usually admit I can acknowledge a mistake very easily because I'm so comfortable because it happens so often. So
yeah. So what's for people like us who are just getting out of like that fear of admitting mistakes and being free with sharing them. Lynzie and I have connected recently on just like how good it felt to finally be stepping in our own authenticity, right?
Yeah.
But can you give us an example of something that you really messed up and why you took accountability for it and the result, how that played out?
Oh yeah. So just this week, and this it may be a small thing, but it's a big thing. So we have a customer that we made an intentional effort to grow with this customer. And we put together a team of 3 people, a salesperson, a processing engineer, and a program manager. We put them together and charged them with going off and fixing whatever we needed to fix so that we could grow with this customer. The customer came back last week and said, hey, we are really happy with how things have gone the last couple of months. And they want to grow, basically double what we expected. So we had a goal for this team, and this customer now has given us an indication. It's not a commitment yet, but it's an indication that they want to double that amount of growth. And I was ecstatic. And so, the lead of the team is the salesperson who works for me. And I was so happy, especially she's a new salesperson. This will be her first big deal. And I was really focused on, showcasing how she was leading in this area at the expense of showcasing how the group was leading in this area. Right. Mm-hmm. And so I circled back with the other players in the group to pump them up, but it was days later. And actually, I thought I had done it together. In my mind, I had done it at the same time, but I did not actually. So that's a great example of that was not an intentional slight. I had a different intent, but when people are involved, you just have to be attuned to making sure that everybody understands how valuable they are, because pumping somebody up should never be at the expense of anyone, but sometimes there's a motivation to do something that does distinguish somebody differently. And you just have to be conscious of that. So that's just one example, but that it's something that happens, quite frequently where we're dealing with people. So
that's such a great point. And also important to remember, and it's like, okay, this is my new person. I got to pump this person up. But then, but it's amazing that you have the presence of mind and the emotional intelligence to then say, ooh, even though maybe these, with other situations, maybe these other people who aren't reporting to me, or, those wouldn't necessarily be on this was a lesson that I had to learn today from my boss. It was like, okay, maybe I'm not giving kudos to people outside of my department, and it feels like I'm devaluing them, right? When it's like, it's my job to give my own team kudos, but what about this other team I need to also recognize?
It makes a difference.
And, I'm 36 years old, and I, just heard this phrase from my therapist today, and she was like, your emotion is not your truth. And, and I think looking back on younger Lynzie, it's like, oh, You beautiful idiot. Like if you had known that then, that could have saved me so much, like, because that is like a part of what people go off of is their emotion, how they feel about what happened is sometimes what they write. And like, I for sure still do it, probably will still do it and have definitely done it. But like having that phrase, I'm like, oh, just because I feel like that happened, it doesn't actually mean that is what happened. I'm not being slighted. You didn't slight them on purpose, but you feel like it. And then that's just going to drive the rest of it until something corrects the course.
I have never heard that phrase, but I'm going to use it. That is a beautiful phrase.
She said it, and I was just like, I want to send you all the virtual COVID-free kisses because
it's mind blowing. It's it's lightning. We were so beautiful and so dumb back then. Yes. So pretty.
And so well rested. So well rested. Taking a hard right turn, because, we're probably taking up way too much of your evening, but I gotta know, what cool stuff do you guys have that you're working on, whether it's necessarily like, project related or even, something along the lines of like your fearless innovation. What are you guys doing? Because I feel like you guys always have something cool going on.
Oh, well, thank you. We try. That's part of what attracted me to iMFLUX. It's like I'm a part of a big company, but we're a startup. We're still a startup. People don't like to hear you say that you're a startup for very long, but I feel like we're still scrappy like a startup, So we're doing a lot of cool things on the application side, with our technology. I told you, we've got this person in China now. So we've got iMFLUX installed at several molders in China, and that's really challenging and exciting. There's so much opportunity in China, and there's so much, they're so open, there's really a different openness, because I think people in general are less, have been in the industry a lot less. And so they're just very open to embracing technology in a different way. We have, we focus on kind of 5 core markets. So the big ones that everybody probably does: auto and medical and packaging and consumer products and transportation and logistics, and electronics would be the 5th. But within those, we're just finding so many different ways that our technology helps in these applications. So for example, in automotive, we had someone last week in Europe who, was working on how to, reduce the need for sequential valve gating on some big parts. And that was really exciting to see the results for the customer, to see the results of going from like 5 gates to 2 or 1 for their part without kind of tiger striping.
That had to be such a nightmare.
Oh, it was, their reaction about what could be was awesome. And then, in medical, we're doing things with materials, hard to flow materials in medical, where they're able to actually use materials that they had discarded, so we're doing a lot in the upstream developmental molding in medical, because as I mentioned earlier, that qualification process is quite burdensome. It's like you got to get in early and qualify with it. But in qualifying at some of these developmental molders, we see people start to, diminish what they have thought of as trade-offs. So that's really exciting. It just takes a long time. So there's a lot of exciting stuff there. On the marketing side, we're doing it a lot with more digital marketing. So, we like everyone spends a lot at trade shows. I'm not sure what's going to happen, in the future with trade shows. I mean, I'm questioning whether that investment will continue to pay off in the same way. We'll always do trade shows. We'll do the big ones, but to have 10 on your docket every year, I think is not going to be the same. And I think after these several years of virtual work, people aren't going to expect it the same. So we're doing a lot more in our digital marketing, and I'm really excited about how we're targeting, how we're being able to reach people and then continue a conversation with them to get them to the point where they're interested to come in and trial and move forward. So we're doing a lot of cool stuff. I'm really excited to be where we are right now. I feel like we're right at the tipping point. Our CEO, Mary Wagner, she's never satisfied. So, so it'll never be enough for her. But I feel like, we are, our exposure is widening. Our results are getting the acknowledgement. People are opening up to the possibilities of molding differently. And so the world is, changing. So we're excited.
Yeah, I remember you guys coming to the injection molding show just at Penn State. It's a little show. It's mostly about like it's mostly about the talks, and it's done every year except when it's an NPE year, some shenanigans like that. And I remember seeing a table and just being like, okay. And, I didn't necessarily give it much more thought than that. And looking back on it now, I'm like, man, if I would have just spent like 10 minutes just asking some questions, like that would have been a lot. Like I can think of applications or
you could have been working
I could have been working there. I don't know. Can you guys handle me? But you do hire a lot of Penn State grads, so I do. I'm always a big fan of that.
So I think we're about out of time, but Toi, so where can we and or others see you next, virtually and in person?
Or stalk you virtually.
Or stalk me virtually. So I should have my list in front of me. So you can always come to influx.com, and all of the when you go to our contact page, almost all of the requests come to me. So they come through our great administrative assistant Sandy Rush to me. And so if you're interested, that's one way. Of course, we're on LinkedIn and Twitter. We will be at most of the shows this year. The big one, of course, is the K Show. Several of the other ones leading up, we're just on pins and needles, like, will it get moved? Will it get canceled? But I will be, the first one that I'll be at is the Executive Forum in Florida. And then that's in March or April. I should know this on top of my head, but March or April. I'll be at Plastic West in Anaheim. So, and then the new show in Detroit, the
injection mold design.
Yeah.
I want to go there. Yeah.
I'm really interested to see how that show kicks off. So I'll be there as well.
Wonderful. Well, maybe we can have an in-person high five there.
Let's have
a high five.
We'll be at the bar.
Come find us. I'll find you there.
We're the loud ones. Oh, meet you in the bathroom.
Yes, we'll meet you in the bathroom. We'll have snacks.
Well, Toi Clarke Jones, thank you so much for coming on the podcast with us today. It was a delight. My face hurts from smiling once again.
Thank you. You guys have made this easy. I appreciate it.